Today we're here to talk about my latest book, Once Confronted. This is it. Long time in the making, this book. I've also written the Verondon trilogy, which you can see over here. I took 3 months to do each manuscript of that, although editing took a bit long, but the initial writing was 3 months. Started in 2010. They were all published then. This one was written, however, first in 1998, when I went through a period where I wrote 3 different manuscripts. This was the third. And one of the reasons why I wrote it back then was because it was a reaction to something that happened in my life, which I'm now going to tell you about. Excuse me. I shouldn't have coughed into the microphone. On the 20th of April, 1991, I was working in a bookstore. I worked there full-time, and we took turns in working on the weekends. There were only 3 staff because we weren't doing that well. And we each took turns in working by ourselves on weekends. I objected to that because I was scared to be alone there in a bookstore. But I was told, look, we won't let you work Friday night by yourself, but Saturday, nothing's going to happen on a Saturday. And I thought, I don't know, because it was very quiet when you were in there on a Saturday. Quite often, you were there alone a lot of the time, and this shop was on the first floor. All the windows were covered with bookshelves. No one could see in. And about 11:15, thank you, Alex, about 11:15 on that morning, a man came in. He walked around the store, then came up to the counter. It was a Christian bookstore, so we sold chains and crosses and things in the counter. And he seemed interested in one of the chains we had for sale with a cross on it. So he was having a look and he said, oh, I don't know, I'll come back, I'm not sure. So he left. About 12 o'clock, I think it was, he came back in, did a round of the store, again, came back, had a look at the counter, had me get a chain with a cross on it out, had a look at it, said, oh, I don't know, is there any other store around here that might sell these things? And I told him there was another one just down the road, so he left again. Third time he came in, it was about 1:15. He went around the store. This time there was no one else in the store. It was just him and me. He came up to the counter with a bookmark and $2 to pay for it, which I thought, you get this thing that goes in your head. That's odd, because he hadn't asked for anything like that. But you just do it, because it's just this thing that flashes through your head. And I'm just ringing it up, and he says, can I have one of those crosses? We had a turntable on the counter, which had a lock on the top, and there were crosses hanging from it. And he hadn't looked at those before, so I thought, that's weird. But again, this is just passing through your mind in the moment. And as I reached up to get one off, he grabbed my wrist, slammed it down the counter, put a knife to it, and said, get the money out of the till. Not being stupid, that's exactly what I did. He left after taking all the money, made sure he took his $2 coin with him that he used to pay for the bookmark, which really got to me. I remember just looking at us with it going, you cheapskate, it's $2. And left me shattered as I realised the world wasn't exactly a safe place. And I could be dead, because he could have killed me and no one would have known. You have to put yourself together after you go through something like that, and it was very difficult, and it was amazing how scared I got in places very familiar. Walking to the bus stop became a nightmare. I took to doing something, and this is something Madison in my book, she's the victim of an armed robbery, except hers, they've got guns, and she has someone with her. She starts to do something called counting witnesses everywhere she goes. If she sees someone coming, she says, there's someone else around who'll protect me from that person. That's completely based on fact. That's exactly what I did. Still do sometimes when I get scared. And this was 25 years ago that mine happened to me. So you do have to retrain yourself to think safely. I went places that I'd been to all my life by myself, and suddenly I was scared to go. And I took to begging my friends, because we didn't have a car at the time, begging them for lifts places, because I just couldn't walk there anymore, whereas I'd used to done it just fine before. And that led me 7 years later to write what was the original version of this book, where Madison has to put her life back together after an armed robbery. And then she has her friend Evan, who's in it with her. He decides that he's just going to hate their attackers. Madison doesn't think she can live like that. I'm having been through it. I'm not sure that's the best way to live either, although, you know, there are some days when it's really hard to think of that guy with anything but hatred. Madison, because I wanted to challenge myself in that attitude, her attacker, because she knows who the guy is who's hurt her, he says, reaches out, or they get in contact. You have to read the book to find out exactly how it happens. He wants to ask for forgiveness. She has to then say to herself, can I do that? And there's something you can do these days. It's called the Restoration Conference, where people do this with their attackers. I know because when I was researching the book, I spoke to a man who runs restoration conferences. I'd met him at something. He was looking for people who had been victims of violent crimes to participate in going to jails, to talking to inmates about the results of that kind of thing. I considered it, but decided I wasn't really up to going in and doing that. But having heard of the Restoration Conference, it confirmed, or reminded me of this book that I'd written all these years before, and said, this is something that I should really talk about, because this is an issue that a lot of people go through. So she goes through a restoration conference, or she has to consider whether that's something she wants to do. But Evan, the man who is also in the robbery with her, he thinks hatred is a better option. And I understand that completely. You want to hate someone who's done something like that to you, that's done something terrible. I knew a guy once who had been through something terrible in his life, and he had decided to hate the person who'd done that to him. But you could see how it affected his life in negative ways. He was a person who was not coping well with the world. And I always wondered if that was what caused him not to cope, is the fact that he refused to even consider forgiveness. And I don't know. Like I said, I have no idea who attacked me. He was never brought to trial. Nothing. I probably will never see him. But I have to be open to the possibility that should he someday contact me and want forgiveness, I have to think, can I do that? And I have to be prepared to. So yes, so that's really the story behind the book. So its core is recovery and forgiveness, and if you want to find out more about it, please come and talk to me or get a copy. I know some of you have already done that, and hopefully you'll enjoy it when you read it. So thank you for listening.